is up, guys? This is CubowaK here, and welcome to the generic video everybody's already made. The next step in Pokemon discussion. So, we're going to be doing a discussion video this week, right here on Saturday. It's a little bit late uploaded, because I'm barely recording this on today, past noon. So, we're going to see how this goes. But it's okay, because it's not like a main series, or a main, series on my channel, upload. So, it's okay if it's a little bit later. But, okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about what everybody's talked about. This is going to be an analysis, discussion, speculation video. I don't know how long it's going to be. We will see. And we're just going to talk about pretty much what everybody's already talked about. And that is what the next step in the Pokemon franchise is going to be in the terms of main series games, of mainline, main story games, whatever you want to call them. But you know what I'm saying, like the games everybody's waiting for, because it is Pokemon's 20th anniversary. They have a lot of other games coming out. They got they're bringing back Gen 1 into the Virtual Console with a whole bunch of new fancy stuff like the online capabilities. And they have Pokken Tournament coming. They have Detective Pikachu. They had that Super Bowl advertisement. They've had a lot just blowing up everywhere right now. And it's just, the hype is going. The hype is going for the 20th anniversary. And it would only make sense, since it didn't release a game last year, for them to release a main game this year. So, we're going to talk about what we think that is. And a lot of people, because there's been a new Pokemon announced, Magiana or Magiana, however it is pronounced. Forgive me if I mispronounced it twice in a row. But that new Pokemon has been announced, which leads everybody to believe that they're going straight into Gen 7 this year, which I personally don't believe, because what we have to look at is, yes, X and Y were not the greatest of games. They looked really nice because they were 3D, but they didn't focus on X and Y. They did not focus on making the games good. They made them they focused on making them looking good, but the rest of that, I feel like they kind of rushed. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe it was just a hit and a miss, but what we have to keep in mind, though, because everybody's saying, oh, Gen 7 might be happening, and there was a lot of speculation about it, and I don't know, I don't think I'd call it, because a lot of people are saying Gen 7 and then talking about it as if it wasn't a Gen 7. What I think they're doing is, if this game, the way a lot of people are discussing it as Gen 7, because there's still, a lot of people are saying Gen 7, but it's still going to be in Kalos. I don't think that's going to be it, because in that case, Black and White 2 would be Gen 6 already. No, I mean, that's just not happening. That's not what it's going to be like in my eyes. What I'm seeing it as is we got to look back to the beginning of Pokemon history with Red and Blue. Red and Blue, or Green if you're from Japan, Red and Blue and Green, they had Yellow to finish off that line of games. So the reason what am I trying to say? But Red and Blue, they had Yellow, right? So the third game of that region, Kanto, and then the Kanto, let's call it a finisher game, because each generation has kind of had a finisher game, which we're going to talk about right now. And then Gold and Silver had Crystal, Ruby and Sapphire had Emerald, Diamond and Pearl had Platinum, and then Gen 5 is where it really makes you think about what they're going to do with Gen 6. Because Gen 5, rather than having their finisher game, they had a sequel, a complete sequel to the first two games, where it takes place in the same region. They didn't add any new Pokemon, but what they did do is they made a new storyline to go along with Gen 5. So it was the most, it was probably the most story in one generation thus far, not including remakes, because you had 2 whole games of new story instead of 2 games with the same story, and a third game with the same story with minor tweaks to make it different and to get you a little bit of exclusive stuff to that game. But we have to look at that, though. Every generation until Black and White, when everybody was expecting Gray, they got Black and White too. So when it comes to 6th generation, what I am thinking is, well, also we have to look back too, because Black and White, the 5th generation, was the first gen out of the previous 3 generations from Gen 3 to not include a remake of a previous game. And I'm assuming they didn't remake Ruby and Sapphire in Generation 5 just because they felt that it didn't need a remake yet. Like, it would be too much the same. Remaking Fire Red, Leaf Green, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, that was kind of a good time to remake those games. When they remade Red and Blue, they went from first gen with so many broken mechanics and no genders or any of that, and they put it into third gen, which had a whole bunch of new mechanics. It balanced the game more, because in first gen there was a lot of broken things, and in third gen all of those things that were broken for the most part had been fixed. So it was a good time to bring that back. Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it was a good time to bring those back, because once again it was way back on the Game Boy Color, so it was really outdated. There were still some things that weren't implemented yet, like in Gen 3, but it was just a good time. It was a good time to bring it back, because of course they had all these new features and they expanded on that game so much. So that was a really good remake as well. And then in Gen 5 though, Ruby and Sapphire, there wasn't really too much crazy change yet between Ruby and Sapphire and Black and White. Like, yes, there was crazy change. There was like a few hundred new Pokemon, a lot of new features and stuff, the physical special split, but it wasn't as drastic of a change from the previous two to their respective remakes. So they probably thought, okay, we don't need to do this yet. We don't have to come out with a remake every generation, because then it's just an endless cycle. So what they probably did instead for Black and White was release Black and White 2, because they didn't have to worry about making a remake as well. They were able to solely focus on, okay, Black and White 2. We don't have to focus on this. And I know you could argue they didn't do that in Generation 1 and Generation 2 and they didn't have a remake, but that was the beginning of the franchise. They probably didn't think about it then, but then they were like, okay, we've been putting out 5 games per generation. Making this generation only hold 3 wouldn't be fair, especially since so many people liked Black and White so much. I mean, a lot of people will say they hated it because there was dumb Pokemon, but honestly, it was a good generation. I mean, it brought some of the best and some of the worst Pokemon to the game, to the table, which is a huge thing people don't consider. They don't consider the best Pokemon. They only think about, oh, this Pokemon freaking sucks. It's dumb. It looks like an ice cream cone. And then they just brush the whole entire generation off as garbage. But Generation 6, what I think they'll do, or what I'm thinking they'll do, I don't know. It's a hard thing to call, because Generation 6 does have a remake. They have Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire already. So you gotta think, are they going to do something like they did with Black and White 2 and release 2 games? And personally, I believe they will, to keep the hype for the 20th anniversary going. Because when you think about it, it is 20th anniversary, and I think they could do this really well, because X and Y, like I said, wasn't the greatest game ever. They focused more on graphics than story, so it kind of like X and Y was a huge disappointment to me. I'll say it. Story-wise, the graphics, they did a great job with the 3D. It was amazing. It still is amazing. But I don't think they're going to release those same games with Zygarde being the main legendary and call it just Pokemon Z. I don't see that happening. What I think they'll do, in all honesty, is it's either going to be, in my opinion, I'm not claiming this to be truth, don't think I am, but I think they're either going to make Pokemon XZ and YZ or ZX and ZY. And the reason I think so is because I still think, like, they have Z. The letter Z is way too set up here. Like, if they skipped adding Z to the title at all, I feel like it would be stupid. If they did X2 and Y2, I don't think that would be good at all, to be honest. But Zygarde, they already have that Pokemon whose name starts with a Z. Like, they made it so blatantly obvious they wanted to do Pokemon Z. And I think if they brush off the idea of Pokemon Z at all, it wouldn't be as cool as if they did use Z. But I honestly think the best possible and the coolest name they could have right now would be Pokemon XZ and YZ, which would be just amazing, honestly. And what they could do with that is, because there's still Southern Kalos from X and Y, which was not explored whatsoever. So that's what a lot of people have been saying. A lot of people have been saying, oh, Generation 7 and Southern Kalos. And I'm like, no, 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 we're not going to release Generation 7 in Southern Kalos. They're not going to do that. They wouldn't release a new generation in the same region. That wouldn't be what they would do. But with my theory with this ZX or XZ and YZ, I think what they might end up doing is, of course, Southern Kalos not being explored is leading me to believe Southern Kalos will be at least a part of Pokemon of the new games coming out, or the new games coming out. I mean, I don't think they'd just be like, oh, this area hasn't been explored, and then never explored. That's just ridiculous to me. They're setting this up to be something for people to explore and to look forward to. But I think that this generation is going to be more of a Generation 6.5, 6.5, whatever you want to call it. Because Generation 5, I don't consider Black and White 2 Generation 5.5. I really don't. Because they didn't add new Pokemon, they didn't add a new region at all. It's the same region. So I've never thought of that as 5.5. If anything, it's like 5.2. Like, it's just it adds to Generation 5, but it doesn't add too much of what you'd expect in a new generation. Which is why I don't consider it a new generation at all. But the new games, the Z games, as I'm going to call them for simplicity, I think those are going to add. I honestly believe, since X and Y added so little Pokemon, once again, focusing more on the graphics than focusing on Pokemon, in my opinion, I think that what they are going to end up doing with X and Y is, or with the Z games, is they're going to add another 100 Pokemon or so, or if not 100, like 70 something, just to make up for everything they messed up with in Pokemon X and Y. So I believe, that's why I say I believe it's going to be Generation 6.5, because of course one new Pokemon has already been announced, and I don't think that's the end of it. I think they are going to add a lot more to this Generation 6.5, because it would only make sense. If this whole area of Southern Kalos hasn't even been explored by anyone, technically, in Pokemon X and Y, then there is a possibility of a whole bunch of new Pokemon, like the ones they found in Kalos, when they did Generation 6, there's a possibility of there being just as many in Southern Kalos. So that's just my input on it. It would only make sense, once again, for this to happen. But I could be wrong. I'm not saying anything to be truth. Who knows? Another possibility is they only release Pokemon Z with the same concepts I'm talking about, with a new story, with Southern Kalos. There is a huge possibility of that. But that is just what I would like to see. I would like to see new story, new Pokemon, pretty much Generation 6 fixed. I would like to see that, because there was a lot wrong with Generation 6. Once again, looked great. Everything else was kind of a disappointment to me and to a lot of other people too. I feel like it was kind of just, oh, it's 3D, people will love it. But then they realized it wasn't, so I don't see them remaking those exact games. In the form of Pokemon Z with a little bit of tweaks. I don't see that being a viable option for them, since they know that X and Y didn't do that extremely well in the hearts of their fans. But yeah, guys, we're going to probably end off this discussion there. I believe that about wraps it up. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below on your output on this. If you think my theory is possible, if you think my theory is complete trash and it's not possible, just let me know. But I'm going to get on out of here, so if you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below to show your support. I very much appreciate it. And as always, my name is CubowaK. I am signing out, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace!